So, I didn't expect this at all. Is the war in Europe actually leaving Europe directly? I'll be right back. Let me talk about this. Now, I've got to tell you, I knew that the conflict in Europe was going to drag on and get other countries involved indirectly, usually with equipment, advisors, selling equipment, selling oil, whatever the case may be. What I didn't expect, at least not from the Ukrainians, is for them to start hitting Russian assets in other areas. That was kind of a new take, and that kind of concerns me because it creates echoes of World War One. Um, and even World War II, if you think about it, because Germany, France, England, all these countries had their colonies, they had their affiliate nations, whatever commonwealths, whatever you want to call them. When the wars broke out, they occurred everywhere. There was fighting in India, there was fighting in the Pacific, there was fighting in Africa, there was fighting in the Middle East, and there was fighting in Europe. There was even some naval battles in South America between the Germans and the Americans and British. So there was a lot of moving parts. So while scanning around, I actually saw this article. I was totally looking for something else. And I saw this, and I want to share this with you. So, Ukraine strikes Russian long range strategic bomber, right? Not a big surprise. Ukrainian drones have hit a remote Russian airbase in the Arctic, destroying at least one strategic bomber. Ukrainian media has said the attack on the Olenia airfield in the Murmansk region damaged a Tupolev Tu-22 M3 long-range supersonic bomber or missile carrier that can fire AS-4 heavy anti-ship and KH-22 cruise missiles. Um, Ukraine is down to Tu-22 for the first time on April 19th, according to Ukraine's Air Force, with the aircraft crashing in Russia's Stavropol Krai just after Russia launched an attack on Ukraine's, I won't even, Donetsk region. I can't pronounce this shit, sorry. Um, the Olenia airfield is more than 1,200 miles away from the Ukrainian border and lies only 120 miles from Finland. Um, that's new. That's kind of shocking to me because what that's telling me is the war is no longer between Russia and Ukraine at their border where they are fighting on the ground. They're hitting each other's assets. Now, this attack kind of made some sense because if you think about it, the those bombers could fly from that Arctic base and hit Ukraine from a distance. So the Ukrainians probably figured this out, but to see that attack at that kind of distance tells me a couple of things. One, the Ukrainians are getting better equipment and they're getting better at planning these kind of attacks. Two, they have a pretty intimate knowledge of where all the Russians' toys are. And three, they're attacking in areas adjacent to countries that are not currently involved in their conflict directly. So it's easy to assume that the drone could have had a malfunction and hit Finland. It's possible that Russia may have tried to shoot down the drone and hit Finland or Sweden. And these kind of scenarios, that's where things start to escalate. We've already had Romanian military saying that they've had missile fragments and drones crash on their territory. We know a couple of people were killed in Poland last year, unintentional. It was an exchange between the Ukrainians and the Russians, and a missile went past the battlefield and hit residents in Poland. But this concerns me because this is the kind of stuff that will quickly escalate. And then while I was reading that, another article came up, and this one kind of surprised me as well. Let me bring that one up for you just so you can see it. Tuaregs photographed with Ukrainian flag after defeating the Wagnerites in Mali. So, uh, Tuareg rebels in Mali have been photographed holding a Ukrainian flag after killing dozens of Russians from the Wagner PMC private military group. Um, Picture was obtained by the journalist who said this photo seems to indicate the Tuareg support for Ukraine, which has been pursuing Wagner mercenaries across the African continent. So let's back up for a second here. Bentley quit it. Okay, he's trying to kill a sky raisin. We have a sky raisin in the house. For those of you who've never heard that before, look it up. It's really funny. But he's trying to kill the sky raisin. But what he's doing is he's hitting the cables under my table and he's kind of moving stuff around, which is freaking my eyes out. Anyway, back to the subject. Um, that's interesting because you have an African nation, possibly with Ukrainian intelligence, attacking Russian paramilitary in Africa. You have the Ukrainians doing a very long distance drone strike to a Russian base in the Arctic near Finland. We're seeing supposedly Chinese advisors moving into Afghanistan. We have North Korean troops maybe joining Russians. You have Georgians and Kazakhs helping the Russians. You have Brits, French, and Americans volunteering to help Ukraine. We're not even talking about Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran. And now apparently the UAE has said that if Hezbollah doesn't stop, because they don't like Hezbollah either, that the UAE will allow Israel to use their airspace. And so would the Jordanians, which really pissed off the Iranians. Do you see how this is all becoming a web of garbage? And this is what scares me is through the Mediterranean, through the Suez Canal, are phenomenal amounts of trade that go through there. Remember a few years ago that they had that ship get caught in a windstorm, lost its nav, and hit the Suez? You can speculate it was on purpose. You can speculate it was a bad accident, which there have been a lot of navigation accidents if you haven't noticed lately. There's been another one in Louisiana, and I can't remember where. I have to go look it up. In any case, everything got delayed. I mean, there were hundreds of freighters that didn't have the amenities to turn around and go around Africa. So they basically sat there and the losses were huge. I'm sure somebody, if they shorted the stock, did great. But these are the kind of things that worry me because an expansion like that, hitting Africa, hitting Mediterranean targets, Middle Eastern targets, we're starting to see where Russia, the owner or the leaders of the Wagner military group, are actually asking for Russian assistance, regular military assistance, to deal with the Tuaregs, who are probably being funded by, I don't know who, the CIA, the French, take your pick. The point being, as these little sub incidents start to escalate into their own battlefield, essentially what you're going to have is a series of ongoing proxy wars. And because of today's technology, the ability to live stream stuff quickly, put it out on the internet, it's not like it was in the 60s and 70s where, oh, well, allegedly this guy was American, but nobody really had footage of it, right? Now, some terrorist with a phone can capture a British SAS guy and videotape him and send it to the media and say, hey, look, we captured this guy in a country he's not supposed to be in. These kind of things are what can very quickly escalate. Now, you add to that the French train arson, then you add to it the weird blackout they had. Apparently, as of the day of this recording, somebody cut a bunch of fiber optic cables in Paris. So they lost the internet and phones for a hot minute. They did all these things got restored, but do you see how there's a lot of ill acts? I don't know how else to put it. Nefarious acts being committed by countries, and now it's in different places. Africa was not a place I expected Ukrainian allies to attack Russians. And over time, we're going to wind up seeing these things expand. So we obviously can't do anything about that. What we do need to understand is how do these things affect our supply chain personally? I would highly recommend, aside from the normal prep, get your bullets, band-aids, beans, etc., highly recommend understanding what's near you locally, because my supply chain to Oklahoma, to the cattle or the farms up there, is a hell of a lot shorter than my supply chain from the wheat in Ukraine. And you guys, for the most part, are in the same boat. So understand, where are my other options? Are there farmers market? As a matter of fact, my wife just put it in order. We're going to have our daughter and one of our sons and their families all meet here in an upcoming weekend at the same time. So what she did is put in a big order of fruits, vegetables, and produce with the farm to market co-op here in our part of Texas. So there's a semi will come down and they will pack our box, if you will, our crate, and then we will go and retrieve the crate and then divvy it up at my house while the whole family's here, because they'll be here for a little bit and then everyone's going to scatter again and they can take their product with them. Um, Doing things like that, especially a bulk purchase where your cost per unit is lower and you can divvy it up with family and friends or your mag, has a lot of value. So if you take anything from this video, we can't deal with Russia and Ukraine and African fighters, etc. Understand, how can you shorten your supply chain? Where can I get honey? Where can I get fuel? Where can I get water? Where can I get beef? Knowing how these things happen, where you can get them locally, regionally, can make a big difference, and coordinate with other people. I travel around a lot, and when I'm traveling, I'll text some people and go, "Hey, I'm passing through your air, I'm passing through, say, Dallas and heading to Houston. Is there anything in Dallas you need?" Um, that person says, "Yes, please go to Costco and pick up X because I can't find it locally." Great. I'm going to go and see if I have it there. During COVID, my brother and I and a few of the other military guys were texting each other. I found 22. Does anyone want me to pick up a box? I found, whatever mags for your Glock. You guys get the picture. In any case, coordinate with each other, coordinate with people you trust. Find your resources closer to home and make friends with those resources. Um, I don't like this at all. This stinks of the overlapping alliances that literally sucked a bunch of people into World War I, and with our economy creator the way it is, it's kind of like a little bit of World War II, a little bit of World War I kind of stuck together, and I don't like the way it's playing out. Anyway, you guys be careful, be safe out there. Do your homework, understand your local supply chain. I will see you guys later on. You guys be safe out there.